When people talk about The Walking Dead, the conversation usually centers on its golden era, seasons 1 through 5. But I think we need to have a serious talk about something that doesn't get said enough. Seasons 9 through 11 might actually be some of the best that the show ever gave us. Years of uneven pacing, frustrating character choices, and a few too many mid-season filler episodes. The Walking Dead made a comeback, a creative, emotional, and downright terrifying comeback. And it's largely thanks to one woman, Angela Kang. Now, this is going to be a case for seasons 9 through 11 being just that, some of the best Walking Dead that we ever got. And it's starting off with my first point, my main point, Angela Kang. When Angela Kang took over as showrunner in season 9, the show felt different instantly. Now, I was one that started watching after season 1. Season 1's the only season I did not watch live. I started watching after season 1 and watched live from that point on. And you could feel a difference in the show when we got to season 9. Frank Darabont had built the foundation in season 1, a gritty, cinematic apocalypse focused on survival and humanity. Scott Gimple, who followed, leaned heavily into big story arcs and shocking deaths, and I believe sometimes he did that at the expense of pacing and tone. But Kang, she found a balance between the two. Her storytelling felt focused and emotional again. She cleaned up the pacing, gave the show visual identity, and made the world feel alive, even after years of decay. Under her direction, The Walking Dead didn't feel like it was limping to the finish line. It felt like it had something to say again. I think Angela Kang's direction on this is a large part of the reason why we ended up getting the spin-offs that we did. Daryl Dixon, Dead City, and any others that may hopefully come. My second point I want to make. The Whisperers. Now, the Whisperers were, and still are, one of the most chilling and creative threats in the entire series. I know, I did read the comics. I know that she took this from the comics, as most of the story comes from the comics. There are some differences, there are some tweaks, but I think with how she portrayed it and how she adapted it to the screen versus being in the comics, I think was handled marvelously. After the larger-than-life chaos of Negan and the Saviors, the Whisperers took the show back to its horror roots. These weren't just villains, they were monsters. Humans who had become part of the dead. Their introduction in season 9, the fog, the Whisperers, the sudden realization that the walkers were talking, felt like something out of a true horror film. I remember this episode, and again, I had read the comics, watched with my family. They had not read the comics, and so I thought pretty instantly these were the Whisperers. They did not. They were completely clueless and baffled at what was going on, thinking that the walkers had actually started talking. We look back in The Walking Dead. We see the governor, who was a tyrant. We see Negan, who was a narcissistic warlord. But Alpha and the Whisperers, they were something else entirely. Primal, disturbing, and hauntingly believable. It reminded us why The Walking Dead worked in the first place, because it could still make you afraid of the dark. My third point. Strong character arcs and new dynamics. Season 9 through 11 also gave us some of the strongest character work in the entire series. Daryl, who had spent years as a side character, stepped into his own as a leader. Carol's emotional war with Alpha was raw and deeply personal. And Negan, the man who once seemed irredeemable, actually went through a believable redemption arc. I've come back to love The Walking Dead again, as I've been watching through with my own kids. They're older. They were all around when The Walking Dead was coming out, but obviously they were far too young to actually watch it. And we've come around and we've watched it now that they're older, and it's not gonna keep them up at night. But my daughter was a huge fan. My oldest daughter is a huge fan of Glenn, and as we watched it, TGK and Common Magpie instantly loved Negan, and part of that may have been because of how he first interacted with Glenn, and because their sister loved Glenn so much. But I remember telling her when we watched that episode, telling her and my wife both, you're not going to hate Negan. You will actually end up liking him. And they both swore, no way. There is no way possible we would ever like this character. And now my wife does agree with me. My daughter still says that she doesn't, but it's mostly because she just can't admit that I was right. Negan has probably, in my opinion, one of the best story arcs in television. To go from someone that is hated as much as he is to a beloved character that gets its own spin-off. The people who once hated him so much are rooting for him now is phenomenal story writing. The fact that someone can make you go through that range of emotions with a person who doesn't even really exist is absolutely insane. Now, if we go beyond the character arcs, the story arcs, right, and look at some new characters that if it was not for the later seasons, we wouldn't have at all. Princess, Connie, Mercer, Stephanie, all of these are bringing fresh energy and personality into a show that easily could have felt stale by this point. Angela Kang didn't just add new faces, she created new relationships and conflicts that actually felt human again. Point 4. Standout episodes. Now, standout episodes are something that can possibly be problematic. We recently watched episode 5 of Daryl Dixon, and you can watch that. We did a live immediately after the show, and we talked about it a little bit. The fact that it very much is a throwaway episode. There's really not a whole lot that happens significantly that pushes the story any further. Now, that being said, there's a lot of cool stuff in it, but I have a problem with it because the season is so short. It's hard to have episodes like that, no matter how cool or interesting some of the stuff is. I mean, they have a train that's pulled by walkers through the desert. It's a very, very cool idea. But one of the things that I think was so good about seasons 9 through 11 was they were much longer seasons. Well, like 3 times as long as what we're getting with season 3 of Daryl Dixon. And so with that, they were able to put some quote-unquote filler episodes that are essentially throwaway episodes. But they get to explore new stuff that you wouldn't get to if you're just focused on the main story. So, as an example, season 11 has an episode called On the Inside. It is easily one of the most terrifying episodes in the entire series. It's basically a self-contained horror movie. We see Connie and Virgil trapped in a house. stalked by feral survivors. The tension, the claustrophobia, the silence, it was peak Walking Dead horror. It was it was one of the best episodes in the entire series, in my opinion. This reminded longtime fans what the show could do when it stripped everything back to survival. Point 5. The redemption of the show itself. Now, let's be honest, by the end of season 8, The Walking Dead had hit rock bottom. Glenn's death was a gut punch that left a bad taste, not because it happened, but because of how it happened. Shock value over storytelling. The show's pacing dragged, the tone was uneven, and even the most loyal fans were starting to tune out. I personally know a large number of people who watch The Walking Dead with me week after week after week who just stopped at the end of season 8. But seasons 9 through 11 brought it back. The time jump, the new communities, the sense of rebuilding civilization, it all breathed new life into the series. It wasn't just about surviving anymore, it was about living again, which was really where the show was trying to get to, I feel like, for a long time. I just don't think they knew how to get to it. And to be able to take the idea of living again and still add the elements of horror and things of that nature in there is really a testament to Angela's taking the helm. And point 6, one of my favorite parts of the entire series. This quite literally almost invoked an emotional reaction for me, a few of these. But when we get to season 11, the very end, we have episodes that start off, I think it's the last 5 or 6 episodes, it starts off with Judith narrating. Her narration at the end of season 11 added something beautiful, this bittersweet feeling that anything could happen. Even characters that we knew and we loved, even with it being The Walking Dead, we had to... I mean, there's characters that you had a confidence that they would never actually die. I mean, they couldn't die. There's no way that they were going to kill off Daryl, right? There were characters like that we were confident were going to make it to the end of the series. But now we knew we were at the end of the series. And anything was fair game. We didn't know who was going to make it. We didn't know how it would end. And for the first time in years, I think the show had a real, true unpredictability again. Hearing Judith talk about the people who kept fighting and made us who we are tied the entire series together, from Rick's beginning to the next generation's hope. It wasn't just an ending, it was a reflection on everything the show had been through and everyone who had survived it. If it couldn't be Rick there at the end, I think having Judith there doing that was probably the next best. And even you could possibly make an argument that having Judith there doing that was even better than it could have been from Rick. I know Rick was the initial character we saw. Everyone got to meet right at the beginning, and that's who we followed. It was Rick's story for a long time. And then after Rick left, there was a change. Now, we had seen Judith growing up. We had seen Judith obviously be born, but she stepped into this new role as a main character after the time jump in season 9. That is where it kind of transfers over to not quite her show like it was Rick's, but it definitely, she is a big focus, and you see that throughout the last couple seasons. But having her be the one to wrap it up, seeing that she was a character we've literally seen from her beginning up till this point, and not knowing what's going to happen, especially with the last, like I said, last couple episodes with her life being on the line and not knowing what was going to happen and not knowing if even she was going to make it. Like, is this her reflecting years later? Is this her thinking this in the moment as she's passing? Like, what is going on with this? It truly, in my opinion, I think this is a beautiful, beautiful way to end the series. Now, to end this whole thing, no, The Walking Dead wasn't perfect. It had its ups and downs, but if you stopped watching after season 8, you missed one of the greatest creative revivals in TV history. Season 9 through 11 prove that even after the apocalypse, there's still life left. So, I would encourage you, if you have not watched the last 3 seasons, if you stopped watching at season 7, stop watching at season 8, go back, rewatch it, start to finish, or if you want to just pick up from season 9, do that. But I do not think you will be disappointed in that. So I appreciate everyone watching, listening, all of that good stuff. I hope I've pled my case effectively. Let me know in the comments if you think this is a good argument, if you think I'm way off base. I know we had an episode a little while back, someone disagreed that we did a tier list of the seasons, and seasons 9 through 11 ended up being higher than seasons 1 and 2, and there were people in the comments, or a person in the comments, who really did not like that, did not think that should be the case, and that's fine. You can have that opinion. You're just wrong, and that's okay. I appreciate you watching the video anyways, but let me know in the comments if you think I'm right, if you think I'm wrong, if I missed something, if there's another reason why you think this should be the case and it's not. Let me know. I'd be interested in hearing that. We'd be interested in hearing that. And always remember, there is no sanctuary.